Hello students, in the previous class we are discussing regarding that preparation of balance sheet in a vertical form. So as per Companies Act of 2013. So in today's class, the same, we are going to prepare a balance sheet in a vertical form on a vertical form as per Companies Act of 2013. So let's go to the problem. From the following information relating to Aruna Limited, prepare a balance sheet as on 31st March 2016 in the prescribed form. They are that the trial balance particulars, they are that fixed assets 25 lakh, investments 1 lakh 25,000, debtors 6 lakh 90,000, the loans and advances of rupees 2 lakh 65,000, miscellaneous expenditure 30,000, profit and loss account loss balance 2 lakh, goodwill 1 lakh 50,000, closing stock 7 lakh, cash and bank balance 1 lakh 70,000. The share capital equity share of rupees 10 each 5 lakh, preference share of rupees 50 each 4 lakh, the security premium 4 lakh, and secured loan 9 lakh, bills payable 1 lakh 50,000, capital reserves 16 lakh, unsecured loan 1 lakh 55,000, creditors 6 lakh 25,000, provision for taxation is 1 lakh. The total is 48 lakh 30,000. So before we present that balance sheet, we should prepare notes annexure to balance sheet. Where that ನಾವು notes annexure to balance sheet prepare ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. So ಈ ತರ columns ಇದನ್ನ ಮಾಡಿ prepare ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಣ. Note annexure to balance sheet, note number plus amount in rupees. And note number 1 consists of share capital. So note number 1 share capital. ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ share capital related information ಅನ್ನು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಎಂಟ್ರಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. So ಈ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ equity share of rupees 10 each 5 lakh and preference share of rupees 50 4 lakh. The total is 9 lakh. The note number 2 is reserves and surplus. That's security premium 4 lakh, general reserve 16 lakh, and from that less profit and loss account loss balance. Here that loss balance iruttante less ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ 2 lakh. 16 plus 4 lakh 20 lakh minus 2 lakh 18 lakh is the remaining balance. And note number 3, that is long-term borrowings. That secured loan 9 lakh and unsecured loan 1 lakh 55,000. The total is 10 lakh 55,000. And the note number 4 is deferred tax liability. So ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, nil ಅಂತ ತೋರಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. Note number 15 other long-term liability. So that's also nil. Note number 6 long-term provisions. So ಅದು ಕೂಡ nil, ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲ. And note number 7 short-term borrowings. ಅದು ಕೂಡ nil. And note number 8 is trade payable. Another trade payable, there are two items, that is creditors 6 lakh 25,000 and bills payable 1 lakh 50,000. The total is 7 lakh 75,000. And note number 9 other current liability. ಅದು ಕೂಡ nil ಆಗಿದೆ. Note number 10 short term provision for taxation 1 lakh. Come to that note number 11 fixed assets. That assets 25 lakh and the goodwill 1 lakh 50,000. The total is 26 lakh 50,000. And note number 12 is non-current investments. That investments 1 lakh 25,000. And note number 13 deferred tax assets. Adar ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, nil. Note number 14 long-term loans and advances nil. Note number 15 other non-current assets, ಅದು ಕೂಡ nil ಆಗಿದೆ. And note number 16 current investments nil. And note number 17 inventories. So inventories ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು closing stock ನ ತಗೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ. Closing stock rupees 7 lakh. And note number 18, it is in trade receivables. The trade receivable, we have debtors of rupees 6 lakh 90,000. And note number 19, cash and cash equivalent and cash balance of 1 lakh 70,000. Note number 20, short-term loans and advances of rupees 2 lakh 65,000, loans and advances. And other current assets, that is a miscellaneous expenditure of rupees 30,000. So now we have calculated that notes annexure to balance sheet. So whatever the calculation we have made here in notes annexure to balance sheet should be presented in the face of balance sheet, like that in the books of Aruna Limited, balance sheet as at 31st March 2016, that particulars and note number figure for the current reporting period. The first one, equity and liability. Now that equity and liability, the first one is shareholders fund. The shareholders fund, a share capital, that calculated in note number 1, amount rupees 9 lakh. And B, reserves and surplus, note number 2, So that amount rupees 18 lakh. And C, money received against share warrant. So no information about this. That's why it's called as nil. Another equity and liability. The second one is non-current liability. That non-current liability, the A, the long-term borrowings that presented in note number 3, 10 lakh 55,000. And B, deferred tax liability, note number 4, nil. And C, other long-term liability, note number 5, nil. And D, long-term provisions, note number 6, ಅದು ಕೂಡ nil ಆಗಿದೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ. And equity and liability, ಮೂರನೇ ಒಂದು ಹೆಡಿಂಗ್ ಬಂದಂದ್ರೆ that is current and liability. The current liability, so that A, short-term borrowings, that calculated in note number 7, that is nil. And B, trade payables, represented in note number 8, 7,75,000. C, other current liability, that is no presented in note number 9, so that is also nil. And D, short-term provision, note number 10, the amount of is 1 lakh. Come to the second part of the balance sheet, that is assets. Other assets, the first one is non-current assets. The non-current assets consist of following, that are the A, fixed assets that presented in note number 11, 26 lakh 50,000. B, non-current investments, that presented in note number 12, 1 lakh 25,000. And C, deferred tax assets, note number 13, so nil. D, long-term loans and advances, note number 14, nil. And E, other non-current assets, note number 15, nil. And then under that assets, the second one is current assets. Under that assets, the second one is current assets. Under that current assets consists of following, that is current investment, note number 16, nil. B, inventories that presented in note number 17, 7 lakh. And note C, trade receivables presented in note number 18, 6 lakh 90,000. And D, cash and cash equivalent that presented in note number 19, 1 lakh 70,000. And E, short-term loans and advances that presented in note number 20, amount 2 lakh 65,000. And F, other current assets, it presented in note number 21, amount rupees 30,000. The total of these things, that is 11 to 21, is 46 lakh 30,000, which is called as total of assets. So like that, whatever the information whatever the items which are presented in notes annexed to balance sheet should be presented here in the face of balance sheet, like that. ಈ ತರ ನಾವು ಬ್ಯಾಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಶೀಟ್ ನ ಪ್ರಿಪರೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಇವಾಗ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ನೋಡೋಣ. ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ ಅ ಬ್ಯಾಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಶೀಟ್ ಇನ್ ಅ ವರ್ಟಿಕಲ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ of ABC Limited as on 31st March 2017. That share capital, equity share of rupees 10, 20 lakh, difference share of rupees 100, 16 lakh, reserve fund 16 lakh, general reserve 64 lakh, secured loan 36 lakh, and unsecured loan of rupees 6 lakh 20,000, fixed assets 1 crore, patent 5 lakh 20,000, investments 5 lakh, closing stock rupees 28 lakh, debtors 28 lakh 40,000, cash at bank 6 lakh 80,000, loans and advances 10 lakh 60,000. The creditors of rupees 25 lakh, bills payable of rupees 6 lakh, provision for taxation is 4 lakh, miscellaneous expenditure of rupees 1 lakh 20,000, the profit and loss account of loss balance of 8 lakh. The total is 1 crore 93 lakh 20,000. And the additional information is depreciation on fixed assets rupees 12 lakh, and provision for doubtful debts is 80,000. So like that, we are going to present here. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುವಂತ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ವರ್ಟಿಕಲ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಆಫ್ ಬ್ಯಾಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಶೀಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ಅದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆ ನಾವೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಈಗ ಯೂಶುವಲ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ದಂಗೆ ದಟ್ ಶುಡ್ ಬಿ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೆಡ್ ಇನ್ ನೋಟ್ಸ್ annexed to balance sheet. Move on to that note annexed to balance sheet. Here first note number and the particulars in amount column, ಈ ತರ ಒಂದು ಕಾಲಮ್ ತರ ಹಾಕೊಂಡು ನಾವು ನೋಟ್ ಗಳನ್ನ ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಹೋಗೋಣ. ನೋಟ್ ನಂಬರ್ 1, share capital, equity share of rupees 10, 20 lakh, and preference share of rupees 100, 16 lakh, total is 36 lakh. And then reserves and surplus, here that reserve fund of 16 lakh and general reserves of 64 lakh. And that you have to show that profit and loss account loss balance 8 lakh. That's ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಲಾಸ್ ಆಗಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಮೈನಸ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಬ್ರಾಕೆಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತೋರಿಸ್ತೀವಿ. ಲೆಸ್ ಡಿಪ್ರಿಸಿಯೇಷನ್ 12 lakh, ರಿಸರ್ವ್ ಫಾರ್ ಬ್ಯಾಡ್ ಡೆಟ್ಸ್ 80,000. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಲೆಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋದು ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಲಾಸ್ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಇದನ್ನ ಅಡಿಷನ್ ಆಗಿ ಟೋಟಲ್ ನಮಗೆ 20 lakh 80,000 ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಇದೇನು ಸರ್ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಮೈನಸ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಇದೆ 20 lakh 80,000, ಅದನ್ನ ರಿಸರ್ವ್ಸ್ ಇಂದ ಲೆಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಣ. ರಿಸರ್ವ್ಸ್ ಇಂದ ಲೆಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ನಮಗೆ ರಿಮೈನಿಂಗ್ ಬ್ಯಾಲೆನ್ಸ್ 59 lakh 20,000 rupees ಉಳಿಯುತ್ತೆ. Coming to that note number 13, long term borrowings nil, Note number 4, deferred tax liability nil. Note number 5, other long-term liabilities nil. Note number 6, long-term provision nil. And 8, note number 7, short-term borrowings nil. ಇದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಸೊ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಲ್ ಅಂತ ತೋರಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. And note number 8, trade payable, it consists of creditors of rupees 25 lakh and bills payable of rupees 6 lakh, total 31 lakh. The note number 9, the other current liability, so ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ನಿಲ್ ಅಂತ ತೋರಿಸಿದೆ. Note number 10, short-term provision for taxation rupees 4 lakh. Note number 11, fixed assets, under that assets 1 crore, less depreciation 12 lakh, 88 lakh, and the patent is 5 lakh 20,000, total is 93 lakh 20,000. Note number 12, non-current investments, it consists of investments of rupees 5 lakh, and 13, deferred tax assets, the ಬಗ್ಗೆ information ಇಲ್ಲ, ನಿಲ್ ಅಂತ ತೋರಿಸಿದೀವಿ. Note number 14, long-term loans and advances, ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಕೂಡ information ಇಲ್ಲ, nil. Note number 15, other non-current assets, that's also nil. Note number 16, current investments, so ಅದು ಕೂಡ nil ಆಗಿದೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ. And note number 17, it consists of inventories here that inventories ಇಲ್ಲ ಮಾತ್ರ closing stock ಇದೆ, so 28 lakh present ಮಾಡಿದೀವಿ. Note number 18, trade receivable, under the debtors 28 lakh 40,000, from that less RBD, reserve for bad debts of rupees 80,000, remaining balance is 27 lakh 60,000. Note number 9, cash and cash equivalent, or the cash at bank of rupees 6 lakh 80,000, and short-term loans and advances, that is note number 20, under the loans and advances of rupees 10 lakh 60,000, and other current assets, note number 21. So here that other current assets consist of miscellaneous expenditure of rupees 1 lakh 20,000. ಸೊ ಈ ತರ ನೋಟ್ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಟು ಏನು ಬ್ಯಾಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಶೀಟ್ ನಾವು ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ, ಇದು ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಷನ್ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ ಇದನ್ನ ಬ್ಯಾಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಶೀಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಹೋಗೋಣ. Books of ABC Limited, balance sheet as at 31st March 2017. Particulars, note number, figures for the current reporting period. Under that particulars, the first one is equity and liability. So under that equity and liability, the first one is shareholders fund. Under that A, share capital, it presented in note number, calculated in note number 1, amount 36 lakh. B, reserves and surplus, note number 2, 59 lakh 20,000, and C, money received against share warrants nil. The second one under the equity and liabilities, non-current liability, that A, long-term borrowings, note number 3, 42 lakh 20,000, and B, deferred tax liability nil, and C, other long-term liabilities, note number 5, nil, and D, long-term provisions, note number 6, nil. And coming to that third one under equity and liability, that is current liability, that A, short-term borrowings, note number 7, nil. B, trade payable, note number 8, 31 lakh. C, other current liability, note number 9, and D, short-term provision, note number 10, 4 lakh. So the total of these things, that is note number 1 to 10, is amounted to rupees 1 crore 72 lakh 40,000, called as total of liabilities. The second part in the balance sheet, that is assets. Other assets, the first one is non-current assets. That non-current assets, fixed assets, it calculated in note number 11, 93 lakh 20,000, and B, non-current investments, note number 12, 5 lakh, and the C is deferred tax assets, note number 13, nil, and D, long-term loans and advances, note number 14, nil. E, other non-current assets, note number 15, nil. And the second one is current assets. Under that A, current investments, note number 16, nil. Inventories, note number 17, 28 lakh. And C, trade receivables, note number 18, 27 lakh 60,000. And the D, cash and cash equivalent, note number 19, lakh 80,000. And E, short-term loans and advances, note number 20, 10 lakh 60,000. And F, other current assets, that present calculated in note number 21, rupees 1 lakh 20,000. Total of these things is 1 lakh 72,000. Oh, sorry, 1 crore 72 lakh 40,000. So the total of this thing, that is 11 to 21, called as the total of assets. So like that, now so balance sheet vertical form as per Companies Act of 2013. So ಈ ತರ present ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. So thank you for watching this video. Thank you.